I'm Patrick Bailey with IQlist.com. Today is March 2nd, 2019, and I'm going to be showing another experiment where I add mass to a 3D print in this video. But this time I'll be using BBs and clay. Okay, so why am I even bothering to do this? So I did another video, which I'll probably put a link in here, where I was trying to show how to add mass to a 3D print, where you 3D print it, add some mass, and then cover over it. Let the 3D print enclose it. And so I used sand, that kind of worked, but there were some problems. And then I used BBs, and that worked pretty good. And I think that's a legitimate thing. And the reason I'm doing all this is I'm working on a design here in the next week where I'm trying to make a paper towel holder to replace one we have downstairs. And this paper towel holder stands upright. And so it's got a base to it. And I thought it'd be nice to have some weight in there versus just some plastic on a 3D print. It's kind of lightweight. It'd be nice to have some mass. That's why I'm doing this whole thing. And so the BB idea worked, and I've got one here. The only issue, and it's not really much of an issue, is you get some rattling in there. So if you're not, it's not bad, but there's some rattling. So I'm thinking, how can I quiet it down? So I thought, well, maybe I do a mix with sand and BBs, but then I get back to the idea of the sand has some issues. So I'm trying to avoid the sand. Plus, it's not nearly as heavy as the BBs. So then I thought, well, what about clay? So I went here to Amazon. I found this, and I've got this big chunk of clay here, and it was pretty cheap to get it delivered. Here it's $13 delivered for this 5-pound thing of clay, and I guess this clay never dries. I'm not a clay expert. I know nothing about clay. So if someone knows something better about clay, like, oh, you shouldn't be using this, you should use another clay, post a message in here. But I'm figuring, this clay is safe. It's inert. It should be okay. And so what I did as a really tiny experiment is I took some of this clay and I made a little pouch and I put some BBs in it and I kind of rolled it all together and made like this little, well, here's some clay. So I put it, made a little pouch, dumped some BBs in there, and then I kind of rolled it into a ball and I kind of kept adding BBs until I got it to a nice consistency. I went, oh, that's kind of that might work. And so then I made a tiny, tiny test. And so I made, rather than using the 10% infill, I made some voids in here. So I think there's 4 or 5 voids in here. I have to go double check on that. But then I just kind of crammed it in there and then sealed it over. And this little tiny guy, there is no rattling at all. And it's kind of cool. So I thought, okay, let me do a bigger experiment. So I did 2 experiments. I went down to Lowe's and I got a couple of dowels. In fact, I found, there are some little, not square dowel, but some square pieces next to the dowel that actually fit perfectly in this 10%. So I had an idea. I'll do 2 experiments. One I'll do with the 10% infill, and I'll put a little bit of clay in here, pat it down, fill it full of BBs, put some clay on the top, pat it down, let it close over. And another idea, similar to this idea, I did voids. So I think there's 6 voids in here, because you can go over an expanse pretty easily. About the size of a quarter or $half. We can go over that expanse. We can close it in just fine. No problem in my mind on a Prusa. So I thought, okay, I will put clay on the bottom, pat it down, fill it full of BBs, put clay on the top and pat it down. So in both these experiments, I did not do this mixing. The mixing worked. Now in both of these guys, there's some rattling. They're better, but there's some rattling in it because I think the BBs are hitting each other. Plus, there's some issues doing the 10% infill. Maybe I'll put some pictures of here. I took some pictures and some videos while I was doing it just with my own camera. And, there were some issues trying to close over because when I was trying to do this with the 10% infill, I'm kind of smushing it. And it's a little more labor intensive. And also, in parts, the clay was getting on the top of the 3D print. So it had some problems closing over. But it did eventually close over, where with the voids, it worked much better because I could control it better. It was much less labor intensive. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to do the best of both worlds. I think this was a better idea. So I'm going to go right now, do a quick design in Fusion 360 as a test, but I'm going to make a bigger one, like a big one like this, put some voids in there, about 6 bigger voids. And I'm going to pat down the clay on the bottom, give it a nice clay bottom barrier. And then I'm going to do this rolling of the clay and the BBs and do it that way so they're kind of mushed together. Put that in there, get it really nice and pretty full, and then let it close over. And I think that's going to be the best of both worlds here. And I think I'm going to eliminate the rattling. So with that, let me go do a quick design in Fusion 360. Okay, so here's Fusion 360. Let me right click on here and say new component, and I'll say, well, I'll call it third test. I want to say final test, but watch, there'll be a fourth test, right? Third mass infill test. Boom. Come down here, click on the light bulb for the origin. I get that. I'll right click on here and say create a sketch. And I'll hit the S key, and I'll do a circle diameter. And I'll make this one 100, which will end up being 100 millimeters. That's what I want. And then hit S again, make another circle. And in mine, I put a void in the middle of 25. Boom. And now I want to create those voids. So let me hit L for line key, click here in the center, and start to go out. And then I'll hit the tab, which will let me select the degrees. And I want this to be 60 degrees in the end, but I want it to be 30 above and 30 below. So I could do 30, but that gets me exact. So I'm going to do 28 because I want it to be a little bit lower, and hit enter. Oh, well, I should, let me undo that. Hit L, start it again, tab, 28, tab, which gets me back to the length. So now that's locked in. The angle's locked in. I can go here right on the border, hit that X, lock it in. So there, we're good. Now do an L again, go to the bottom here and do tab to the degrees and do, kind of depends on how it's looking here. Let me see. We'll do 0. 0's there. Negative 28. Or I can do 360 minus 28. There we go. That'll work too. Click there, and there we go. Why does that look funny? It just looks funny. Yeah, it just looks funny. Okay, and then I'll come out here and do a couple more circles. So I'll do an arc. So I'll do a center arc. Click on that. Click on the center. Go out here. I'm not going to get too precise here. I'll just click on here, go around, since this is just a test. And I'll do another one, you know, roughly about here. Boom. And that's going to be my voided space. Hit escape, escape, S key to bring up my sketch shortcuts. And I'll do a 3-point arc because I want to have these little rounded edges here. And so I'll zoom in here and say click here, and kind of get something going there. Click here, something going here. Hit escape. And I want to fix these. This is tangent, but this is not tangent over here. So I'll click on that, choose tangent, click on that. So it fixes that line a little bit, moves things around. Do the same thing over here. Tangent, hit escape, bring up my shortcuts. Find the mirror tool, because I can choose the mirror tool, choose those two angles, those two curves, and then select the mirror line, which is this line in the right in between. Hit OK. And I should have my void. Yay, there's my void I'm going to make. But now I want more, so it's going to be overall 60 degrees, so I want 6 of those. So I can say S and do a circular pattern. You can look this up. You can say pattern. Mine happens to be in the shortcuts, but I can say circular pattern. And you gotta select the object. So I will select. Oh, let me undo that. Let me turn this line into a construction line, and this line into a construction line. And I'll hit L and make a new line that just goes right from here to there. And right to there, to there. And then I could delete these construction lines if I want, because I don't need them anymore. Okay, now back to mirror. Mirror. I need to select all these. Oh, wait, you know, I can fix those too, because those don't need to go. I'll let them be, that's okay. I'll let them be. Because they are sticking out, but that's okay. It's not going to affect me in the end. So we select all that, and there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. How did I get 9? Don't know. Okay, then select my mirror line, so I will select. Oh, I'm in mirror. I want a mirror. So Sorry. Circular pattern. Let me go back and select the circular pattern. Select all these. And then, oh man, when I move that, I messed it all up. Sorry, I had to go. There we go. Sorry about that. Circular pattern again. Select every part. There we go, 8. Circular point will be the center. And there, it makes more, but I want, rather than 3, I want a total of 6. Voila, right? And hit OK. And now I should have all my voids that I want for this particular print. Now, you might slice these in half or in between because you could put another line in between. How big your void is it's got to span that gap. I think it can span this gap just fine, but if you're bigger, you might want to put more, well, you don't want to, I don't know, size of a silver dollar maybe. Depends on your printer and what you want to do. Don't go too deep, too far, otherwise you got to have a bigger span that you make. Okay, so let me select everything and hit Q for press pull, and I'll go up 1 millimeter. That's going to be my bottom. Say new body, okay. And then I will hide bodies and bring back my sketch. And now, well, no, let me back up. Okay, let me fix that. Let me right click on this, edit this feature, and say 25 millimeters high for the whole thing. New body, boom. Make bodies visible. There we go. Okay, so we're good. Now I need to cut that void out. So now I will select all these guys and then press Q for my press pull tool, bring the body back, and then I will do a offset plane. So I want to start 1 millimeter higher. 1 millimeter higher than I would be. And then I want to do 23 because 1 plus 23 is 24, which allows 1 more millimeter on the top. And that's going to be a cut. You hit OK. And I think we got it. Now to prove it, we can do an inspection. Inspect, sectional analysis. And I probably can do, I can just do it on the top right there. And as we go down, we can see, there we go. There's all my voids. So good deal. Hit OK. I'm going to right click on this and say save as an STL file. Hit OK. Nearly done. Sand test. Temp 3. Save it. Okay. Now let me bring it into proofs of control and prep it. So I'll do 0.2 millimeter, 20% infill, and generate. And then we'll go up here to, right as it starts to cover over the top, and we will say, right there, 24.2, there. So that will stop it before it does this layer. And so at that point, that's where I should start putting all this clay and mass in there. So I'll save this G-code off. Where are you, dude? Save her off. And now, let me show you one more thing, because it's been pointed out to me a couple of times that, see, in this case, I don't want to switch the filament to another filament. But that's what this is going to allow you to do. It's going to stop it, move this the filament over, and allow you to shoot the filament out. Actually forces you to eventually, and then put new filament in. And I don't need to do that if I'm keeping the same filament. There's a way to fix that in the G-code. Let me go over that real quickly before we print this out. Okay, so here I'm at the G-code. Now, I need to get my chops back on G-code. I used to actually code G-code 20 years ago when that was pretty much your only choice. We used to hand do G-code so we could do CNC, set up CNC machines. So I am familiar with it 20 plus years ago, but I need to get my stuff back up to speed. But G-code, if you're not familiar with it, is just text, very simple instructions, tell me what the machine to do. Now, I recently watched a video, and I'll put a link up here. Joel, the 3D printing nerd, did a great video showing how to avoid doing what I'm currently doing when I don't need to change the filament, but I want to stop it. that you don't have to do that. There are some other ways around that. So first, let me open up this G code because I can edit it. So let me open up this. And if you've done this for the first time and you don't have anything installed, the G code might say, hey, what do I need to open with? So I'm just going to go down here and say more apps and choose Notepad because it's just text. And here is all this wonderful gobbledygook. And what we're going to search for, I'm going to do a Control F and search for M600. In our case, there should only be one line that has an M600. That's a special command. That command is telling Prusa, hey, stop the filament. It does a bunch of stuff. Stops it, does all the stuff, sets it over there, lets you have some instructions, shoots it out, does all this fun stuff. We can edit this. And what we're going to do is let me bring up the Joel, the 3D printing nerd, was showing this forum post. This lady, Joan, I guess she's one of the moderators over on these forums for Prusa. She said, here's how you fix this. What you can change that code. I can comment it out and put this code in, three lines of code, which is going to essentially stop it and stick it out. So it's actually even more accessible. So this is going to be really cool. So I'm going to do that. In fact, I'm going to follow her instruction to the T. I have some cool ideas that I actually want to make it better, but I'm not going to do that in this video. So here I will, if I put a semicolon in it, anywhere there's a semicolon, that becomes a comment. For anyone who's unfamiliar with coding, we have to leave comments sometimes because it gets complex. And so there's different ways to say, hey, do this. And there's a semicolon, and this says, this adjusts the acceleration. So these can be ignored, but they're really helpful when you're looking through the code, trying to figure out what's going on. So here, for convenience sake, I'm going to comment it out so it's still there. It's not going to do anything because now it's a comment, but I can easily come back and uncomment it. But I'll comment it. And now I'm just going to cut and paste what she has. In fact, in mine, I put some notes here. So in my version, all I've done, I'm going to make another version, but in this version, I said, hey, this section is taken from this URL. So here you can go to that URL. And then here's the part where it says, hey, stick it out. They call it sticking its tongue out. And this one is say, hey, it's going to stop. And then it's basically going to stop. And it's the one thing I don't like about this, I'm going to try to find a way to fix it, is there's nothing on the screen that says it's in a stop mode. But it's waiting for you. Once you press a button, it will start again. So I've edited this code. I'll just say file save. And now let me go put it on there and start to print this guy out. Okay, I actually got this to work, but I need to do a redesign. So I got this. It's working. there's no shaking, but compared to one where the BBs are loose. The clay worked, but after having done it, I had a couple little tiny issues that, it worked out in the end, but I think I want to go back right now and fix it before I do the filming of the actual put it in. So let me go back here and undo some of my history. Let me go back to, let me just undo all this. Undo. Because there's a couple things that I think could be done better. So let me go back to here. And also, even though I designed it, I forgot to put a hole in the center. Not that you have to, but yeah, I kind of liked it. So I think the first thing I got to do is, I think one of the potential problems that I had is the edges were they were too thin. So I think you really need something about half the size of a diameter of a pencil. And so I think I'm going to redesign this a little bit. So let me come down here and say, let's see there. Okay, where is your little guy then? Okay, not gonna like me. So I'm going to put these at 30 degrees as guides. Not that they're actually, I'll make them construction lines, because one thing I found is the lines I put in there, which were at 28 degrees, which is fine, but they angle out, so they're not the same thickness, so they're smaller at the beginning, and that's not what I want. So what I want is I'll come here, just arbitrarily click somewhere right here, hit escape, and then what I want to do is click here and say, make this line parallel with that 30 degree line. I'll say parallel with this. Now it's parallel. Now I'm going to get that thickness. And I do a distance from here to here, pull that out. And I'll say, because it's going to mirror on the other side. So I'll say, let's say 2. So 2, let me get out my calipers so I can kind of think about that size. Because that'll be 4 millimeters. Yeah, that's, not quite as thick as a pencil. I think 4 millimeters would probably be a good width. You could probably go more. Let me go 2.5 just to go a little more. So it'll end up being 5. Hit escape. Oh, I don't need this line. Let me erase that line because I can mirror the whole thing, right? And let me go back and let me hit S key, and I need to put in those arcs again. So center point arc there, come out to here, go down. Let me undo that because now I know roughly what I want to do. I want this. That is 25, so I want at least 4. So 20. Well, I'll come out. Oh yeah, follow this line. So this is, sorry, that's 50. 50 minus 5, 45. So I'll type in 45. Select right there, and then arc over there. There we go. That'll give me a little bit thicker than what I had. So it's a nicer connection point, I think. Hit S again, do the arc again, come out here. That is 12.5 right there. I want 12.5 plus 5. I don't think you need to go quite that much, but I'm going to. Boom. Get that out of there. So that's going to be a little bit thicker connection, which I think is good because one thing I'm worried about, and I had a little experience with when I was printing this, is I don't want that clay to get on the 3D, any of the plastic there because it might have a problem, adhering to it after the fact. And I had one part where I actually put too much clay in, and so as it printed over, it was kind of squeezing it out, and it got over there, and it finally sealed itself, but it did have some problems. Okay, so let me put some arcs in there. Hit S, do a 3-point arc. Click there, kind of make something there, there. And then we click on these and fix their tangent. So I'll say tangent with that. I want tangent with that. Cool. So that's half of it. Now I hit my S and I can go find the mirror tool. And I'll select all the objects. That one, let me turn that into, I don't want that full line because I want to copy that. I'll make that a construction line, hit L for line key, and then make a new line here, and I'll choose that line. So now hit S, mirror, select that shorter line, that one, and that one. Well, I guess I am copying that whole arc. It's okay. There we go. So now, that's the space I want. I think I like that better. I got more space. Let me hit the S key and do a circular pattern. And then just select all of that. That. I think I should have, 8 pieces when I'm done? Or 11? Does that sound right? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That doesn't seem right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. Center. And then we want to do 6. There we go. So I'm going to go with that. That's going to give me more connection space. I think that's going to be fine. I think I'll have enough density, so I think I like this idea better. So now let me select all of this, do a Q press pull, go up 25 millimeters for this test, hit OK, remove the bodies, put back the sketches, and now I want to, see, I did it again. Edit this feature, go back to bodies. I don't want that centerpiece. That's what I want. I did it again. Hilarious. Okay, now let me select all these. Oh, not that. Select all these because I'm going to make the void. Bring back the body. Press Q for the press pull tool. I will do an offset plane. Yeah, do 1 millimeter, so it's 1 millimeter off. And it's 25 minus 1 is 24, and I want 1 millimeter on top, so 23 millimeters total distance. And it's a cut. And boom, there we go. Remove the sketches. And just to inspect it, let me do a sectional analysis. Click on the top and drag down. There we go. That's exactly what I want. Hit cancel. I'll just save that. Now right click on this, save as STL, hit OK, and I'll make this my 4th test. Attempt 4. Fourth mass infill test. Hit OK, bring up proofs of control, and get this test in here. Boom. Hit generate. Okay, looks good. And then I'll go up to, should be 24. 24.2. Right there, that's where I want to stop it. So I'll save G code and say testing. Sand test. And now that it's in there, I want to do a similar thing and fix the code in there, which I did last time. Because that worked really great. When I fixed that code, rather than doing the swap of the filament, it stopped it, put it out, which was much more convenient to access and try to get the BBs back in there. Oh, way more convenient. So let me open this. Oh, sorry, I'm doing it. This is how I would normally do it in all Linux and Vi, and no one needs that in here. So let me just open the code in a text editor again. And I'll go searching for M600. In this case, we only have one. That's pretty convenient. Oh, another thing I may not have mentioned last time is here, if you go a couple of lines up, you can see these are comments because you have a semicolon, but it says 24.2. So that's after layer change 24.2. So that tells us where we are. Because what happens if you put multiple stop points, and some stop points you actually intend to swap out the filament, you can figure out which one it is, right? So let me copy and paste. So I will comment out that because we don't want it to do a swap anymore. We want to do this, which is going to stick it out, stick the bed out, and then stop it, wait for us to push a button, and once we push a button, it'll return. And so after, in between these two steps, that's where we're going to put all these clay and BBs in. So I'll save this, and let's go print it. Okay, so I'm perfecting this technique. It's I'm still working on it. But what I would suggest doing is, first, here's what I'm doing. Haven't done enough of this technique, so we'll see. So I'm making just a little tiny clay ball with nothing in it. In fact, does this have, no, it has one. Making a tiny little clay ball and sticking it on the bottom here. And I'm squishing it. So I kind of want to get it squished all the way around there on the bottom. Which is what I've done. And the next step, I make a clay ball with BBs in it. So I'll do a little bit of this. So I'll take some clay, kind of make a cup, and then I'll start dumping some BBs in. And then I'm kind of going to knead it, because I want the BBs to be kind of part of this mix, so they're not going to be hitting each other or rattling around. And so I keep adding BBs and I keep adding some clay, and I kind of roll it into a ball like this ball that's going to be just a little over, so when I squish it, it's good. And then I have to make a final ball. This is after I squish it. Then I make a final ball to make up the rest there. So I'll finish this off camera, but here's a ball that I've already made with a bunch of BBs in it, And I would say, at best, it's half BBs as far as volume goes. Probably more like 60, 70% clay. And this has been sitting here a while, getting warm. And so you take that, tap that down, you get something like this. Then I would take another one that's just clay and kind of try to finish it off. And get kind of close to the top, but not to the top, because I don't want this clay over here where it's not going to make adhesion. So you can kind of see that. It's good. So I'll finish this up. That's kind of what I'm doing. Putting clay on the bottom, the BBs with the clay, where I still got some room, and then finishing off the top. Close to the top, but not at the top, and then let the print stop. Let the print go and cover the whole thing up. Okay, here we go. So I got it all nice and squished in there. And one thing I did do is I kind of rolled this dowel over, making sure there was nothing poking out. Kind of scraped. Making sure when that head goes over, it's not going to hit anything. So it should be good. So I'm going to hit this, let it start again. And we'll see how well she does. There we go, we're closing over. Look at that. Cool. It's almost done closing around, and I think I did a pretty decent job. With the exception of this spot over here, you can see that white spot is the clay coming through a little bit, but the rest of it, I think that one I overfilled probably a little bit, but the rest seems to be closing over just fine, so we'll just let it finish, and I think it'll recover just fine even on that one spot. Okay, it's done, so done deal. So I got all this. No rattling, no nothing. It's sweet. The only thing I would suggest, based on what just happened, I don't know if this can see this very well, but there's a little scarring there in that section. That is the section where some of the clay went through. And I let it go to 100% after that, and it started to scratch it up, and then I slowed it down to 30%, so about a third the speed, and it healed itself, but not quite perfectly. But I think my advice would be, I think the next time I'd run this, I'd run it after it started again, I'd run it at third speed the whole time, even if as it's covering those expanses. I think just run it at third speed, just in case. It'll heal itself. There shouldn't be any issues, even if some clay sticking out. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So next time I try to make this paper towel holder thing I'm trying to design this week, I'll put some mass in here. And I'll use this clay technique, but when I start to close over it, I'll just run it at third speed. So I think this is a good solution. So hope this video was interesting. Hope it helped someone out there. So cool. It's helping me out. I like it. Hey. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, hey, give it a thumbs down. Also, if you like what we're doing here, subscribe to the channel by clicking the subscribe button. And lastly, have a piece of info to share? Just post a comment.